and welcome. I'm Lily Genovese. I'm the coordinator for Trout in the Classroom here in New York City and the New York City watersheds. Welcome to the TIC STEM Fireside Chat. Today we have students from Mrs. Smith's science class at Msgr McClancy High School in New York City, who will be speaking with our Trout Unlimited Lead Scientist, Helen Neville. And as for our students, Sean is a 9th grader who's new to Trout in the Classroom. And Kelly is a senior who has participated in TIC in the past at her school. I will turn it over to our student partners to start our chat.
Hello, Helen. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. My first question is, did you see yourself becoming a scientist when you were a student, and what made you want to go into this work?
I did. I've always been interested in nature and biology as a kid, just really curious about animals and being outdoors. But I think it was really in high school that I kind of coalesced around going toward this career. I had a high school teacher for my 10th grade class. I lived in Hanover, New Hampshire, where Dartmouth College is, and he was leading the lab, one of the labs at Dartmouth, and so was able to get a bunch of equipment for us in our high school biology class so that we were replicating DNA and doing PCR on DNA in 1986 when this was just coming out. And so I got really interested in genetics in particular from him, and that's what I ultimately was trained in. So from there I went into pre-med in college and then decided that I really wanted to do something more outdoors with conservation. And so it was neat that I was able to take that interest that I got in 10th grade biology from John Hutchinson and channel that into working on trout genetics to understand, use genetics to understand things about the biology and conservation needs of trout. So yeah, it's been a long thread of interest.
Thank you so much, Helen. That sounds like a lot of work you've done these past few years. You were a woman in the STEM field, and I am planning to work in the STEM field in the near future as well. What advice can you give me and other students?
That's a good question. I will say especially for my generation, I have felt really lucky in being able to navigate my career as a woman. I've always been very lucky to work with wonderful men and have, good peers in my graduate program and colleagues as a professional and advisors. So that may be more unusual that I feel like as a woman, I've just kind of been able to carry on as have men in this field. But I do think, obviously there are a lot of issues that women need to think about. And I would say for you all coming in with a new kind of context and a new light on being a woman in science is really exciting. And it just, takes a lot of courage to stand up when you need to stand up and appreciate what aspects you can bring that are unique as a woman. I think we often have a very different way of approaching questions and of interacting with people. So there are a lot of unique strengths that women bring to the table that unfortunately are just starting to be appreciated. But, I think it really is just having the courage and the self-confidence to be who you are as a woman and a scientist, and that both of those things are wonderful and that you have a lot of unique qualities to bring to the table. Continue to stand up for things that you feel aren't right and speak out about them and support your women friends and your male colleagues, because they're all part of the matrix here and the issues we're all navigating. Everybody needs to be involved in those kind of conversations.
All right, that was honestly some really great advice. My next question for you is, what are some common challenges that you face in your work?
Keeping up with the volume of science. It gets really overwhelming these days with just the amount of information that is now available that, in various fields. For me, in my position, you're trained in a certain area. I'm trained as a geneticist, so that's something I've always kept up on. Genomics in particular has really accelerated that field just exponentially. And in my position at TU, that's a hard thing for me to keep up on. So I collaborate with people on some of my work. But, it's becoming increasingly difficult to keep up with that thread of research and science while also being kind of a more generalist for this position that I'm in and trying to understand a broader array of science. So I think that's the biggest challenge, is just the volume of information that we have coming at us constantly, and the expectations of for yourself of keeping up on it, and the changing quantitative skills, like the need really to be quantitative has increased a lot over the past decades.
I love your positive aura around how you get by these challenges. Okay, so our last question is, how has this ongoing pandemic affected your research and work as a scientist?
That's a good question. I feel really lucky that, unfortunately, most of my work is right here behind a computer at a desk these days. So, I think our whole office, we've all been lucky to be able to work from home and sort of just transition to doing what we're doing from our unique and various settings at our houses with all the distractions there. We do run field crews. I have a biologist down in Nevada who runs field crews every summer. And so that was obviously a challenge with the pandemic. We were able to run one of the crews because they were only in one isolated place by themselves up at a lake. But we chose not to run another crew because they would have been going into some really rural communities in Nevada, and we didn't want to put those communities at risk. So we really have had to alter our plans for our research and our work. But for that first crew that we did run, we're able to come up, Jason just did a great job in coming up with a plan that was safe and allowed them to do their work. And we got it all done, which was awesome.
Thank you to our students for these thought-provoking questions. And thank you, Dr. Neville, for joining us and giving us a glimpse into the world of STEM careers. We invite everyone to check out our future STEM Fireside Chats. And everyone have a wonderful holiday. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much, you guys. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks for coming.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.